The basketball community lost a basketball legend. It's not based on gender. It's not based male, female. It's not based on women's hoops. It's not based on men's hoops. Basketball entirely, we lost a legend today in Taurasi when it comes to her officially retired for the WNBA, deemed the white mama, the last of the baggy shorts era. Donald Taurasi is officially retired from the WNBA after 20 seasons. This is a woman that is deemed by most people as the GOAT of the WNBA. She's on the Mount Rushmore for the Women's Basketball, National Basketball Association as being one of the best players to ever play the game. A true four-level scorer, three-point marksman, clutch performer, and she was a woman on the basketball court that you felt her presence. She would talk shit, she would back it up, and she was never afraid of taking and making the big shots, and also just being an overall great leader and a basketball savant, true basketball savant for the WNBA and one of their faces of the league for the past 20 years, Diana Taurasi. When we talk about her accomplishments, she has a long list of accomplishments. 3-time WNBA champion, 2 times WNBA Finals MVP, 10-time WNBA All-Star, 5-time WNBA scorer, arguably probably the best scorer in WNBA history. We're talking about a 3-time NCAA UConn champion. Went to 2 Final Four appearances, two Final Four appearances. She was the most outstanding player in those tournaments. 5-time Olympic gold medal. We're FIBA world champion. She was named on the 10th, the 15th, the 20th, the 25th WNBA all anniversary teams. She is arguably, once again, the best scoring guard in WNBA history. She is deemed the GOAT by many people. She is one of my GOATs, and I believe you can have multiple GOATs. But white mama, Kobe Bryant, who gave her that nickname, and she's a proven winner at every level. I mean, her winning pedigree is significant. It is stamped, and it's sad times for basketball because it just goes to show you that legends can't play forever. And we think about legends that have retired, and we think about some of the greatest basketball players who ever played the game. Excuse me. And we think about everything that they brought to the game of basketball, whether it's on the WNBA or the NBA. Diana Taurasi is a true one-on-one generational type of player, and she deserves all the flowers. She deserves all the credit, and she is the WNBA's modern day GOAT, what people would like to call it, because we got Cheryl Swoops, we got Candace Parker, we got a lot of people that have different variations of GOATs, Lisa Leslie. So it can get tricky, but a lot of times when people talk about the GOAT of the WNBA, they have Diana Taurasi's name, even if you don't think she's the greatest WNBA player of all time. In most eyes, she's nothing less than top 3. So when we talk about Caitlin Clark, we talk about Diana Taurasi, and then we talk about what she's done to pave the way for this next generation. And we talk about Stephen Curry's his impact on the game, but also Diana Taurasi and her impact on the game as well for young women athletes and female athletes coming up. They had to watch and they got to see Diana Taurasi. They got to see her greatness. They got to see her be a marksman, a clutch performer. And we look at somebody like Caitlin Clark, who I deem as the baby GOAT, who is probably going to be the heir to her throne. We're looking at, and we know that Diana Taurasi came out and said some things about just, kind of saying the WNBA is going to be different compared to college. And she was and what she said was absolutely right, especially in the early half of the season. But it's also when you see legends that haven't retired or start to retire, and you see people quickly try to have somebody to replace them, but there's no replacing figures that are monumental. There's no replacing WNBA players, NBA players that have paved the way for so many up-and-coming players and just have a legacy that's so stamped where it's going to take a lot for somebody to surpass them or even to match them. And that's why when people are comparing, if they are comparing certain players and their potential to a particular player, like a Diana Taurasi, or when Kobe Bryant was getting compared to Michael Jordan and LeBron James getting compared to Michael Jordan for based on their potential, it's very, very humbling for those young players because and humbling, there's a lot of work to do and to put in, but it also shows you that they view them as a generational type of player, transcending type of player, and they see that potential. And once again, every league has disciples, and a lot of all-time great players have disciples of their own game. And Diana Taurasi, she's going to have a lot of disciples, and she has a lot of disciples in the league, and up and coming for everything that she's brought to the women's side of basketball and just basketball in general. So it's like the WNBA's all-time leading scorer is Diana Taurasi, 4-level scorer, known for her deep range, logo threes, ability to take over games at an instant. And we're talking about the longevity and consistency. Even though she wasn't at her peak this past season or past few seasons, she was still a force to be reckoned with. She was still a player competing at a high level and setting a high standard of excellence. And she's, once again, one of the clutchest performers, has hit some of the biggest WNBA shots in WNBA history, earning her the comparisons to Kobe Bryant, the white mama. Her culture impact. She has influenced countless of generations and players and helped the growth of the WNBA game. She is a legend. She is stamped. She is solidified. And it's a sad day. It's a sad day for pure hoop fans, for fans out there that love the game of basketball, have been watching the WNBA, not just coming on casually this year, but like have always had love and respect and admiration to the women's side of the sport. Losing Diana Taurasi, she is a legend. She is one of the greatest basketball players. I say this humbly because it's been truly an honor to watch her play. One of the greatest basketball players to ever play the game. When we talk about scoring dominance, growing up, I used to watch when I was playing in middle school and high school and college basketball. I used to watch certain people on YouTube and try to steal things from their games. And a lot of people that I watch, I tried to implement some of the things that they had done on the basketball court and put it into my game. But Diana Taurasi was one of those people that I watched. She was one of those players that I used to go on YouTube and learn how to get to those specific angles on the basketball court, or take those coming off the screens and pin downs and hitting fall away three-point shots and fadeaway shots, as well as Kobe Bryant, as well as Tony Parker, and trying to affect his half spin and his spin moves. And it's been an honor, it's been a privilege, and she's one of the greatest basketball players. Once again, arguably the GOAT of the WNBA. She's officially retired from the game of basketball, and she will be missed. And now, I kind of touched on it a little bit. We talk about the GOAT of the women's basketball, and I call Caitlin Clark the baby GOAT. And she has the potential to be the next heir to her throne, to Diana Taurasi's throne. And when we talk about Diana Taurasi being the modern, well, I keep saying modern because this is the modern league that we're kind of in for. It's just like things are starting to change. But I would say maybe that's not the right word to say, because the WNBA is kind of becoming more modernized. They still have a lot of traditional things that they do in their league in comparison to the NBA. So when I would just say that Diana Taurasi is considered the GOAT of her era, right? And now we're seeing potentially the baby GOAT, like I was saying, Caitlin Clark, who can potentially be the next heir to her throne and compete for a spot on the WNBA's Mount Rushmore list. But once again, Diana Taurasi got 20 years of dominance, 20 years of excellence. Caitlin Clark is just beginning. But when you see somebody that's coming in and breaking some of Diana Taurasi's records as a rookie, then we have to start. And then we see one of the greatest all-time rookie seasons ever in the WNBA besides Candace Parker. We starting to see like potential things that we haven't seen since Deanna Taurasi enter the WNBA. So, and when we look at Caitlin Clark, elite scoring ability, unlimited range, 4-level scorer, and she's more of a 4-level scorer than Deanna Taurasi. And that's crazy. That's crazy to think about. She can score for anywhere, much like Taurasi. But when we think of 4-level scorer and logo threes, Caitlin Clark is going to be synonymous with her game as she continues throughout her WNBA career. We talk about playmaking vision. We talk about killer mentality. Caitlin Clark has that same killer mentality as Deanna Taurasi, that they want to kill you. They want to beat you down. They want to have big moments. They want to have big shots. They want to make FU shots that suck out all the momentum and draining out of the opposing team's home crowd and the team that they're playing against, and give life to their home crowd if they're playing on their home court. Like Caitlin Clark has that same type of impact that Deanna Taurasi had. And then we talk about marketability. We talk about Deanna Taurasi globally on American soil. She's one of the most known basketball players ever. And then we talk about Caitlin Clark bringing more eyes to the game, bringing new fans into the game. And then once again, Deanna Taurasi's skill set translated right away to the WNBA, just like Caitlin Clark. So when we talk about Deanna Taurasi, the GOAT of women basketball, retiring, she's going to have her disciples. She has a heir already, even if she may not want to admit it because of the UConn, the UConn girls in the league, and the UConn has this big overall connection to the WNBA, and Clark doesn't really have that. But it's still admiration, respect for what Deanna Taurasi has done, and also Deanna Taurasi respects Caitlin Clark for what she's potentially going to do as well, and she's highlighted those things. So it's a sad day, man. It's a sad day for the game of basketball, and it's a player I don't want to talk about. And we talked about Deanna Taurasi, we talked about Caitlin Clark, and I want to talk about Cade Cunningham and what he's doing with the Detroit Pistons. Detroit Pistons right now have the 6th seed in the NBA. Nobody cares. Nobody's talking about it because at the end of the day, a lot of times when we talk about national coverage, unless you're a true purist and hoop fan and want to analyze the game, not just on the fronts of the big market teams like the media tends to do, we should be talking about Cade Cunningham. We should be talking about Cade Cunningham being in the MVP race. What he has done this season with Detroit Pistons has been nothing short of fantastic. And it's time for us to start mentioning Cade Cunningham in the same names of Anthony Edwards, and the same names of Luka Doncic, and the same name as Jason Tatum, and the same name as SGA, and the same name as Ja Morant. Zion, he needs to be mentioned in that group because he's a 3-level dual forward who is also the definition of what I call a calm hooper, somebody that plays at their own pace, gets to their own spots, never in a hurry, but always on time. And he gets after it defensively, and he's clutch, and he talks it and he walks it, and then he can back up anything that he says on the basketball court. We need to start talking about Cade Cunningham. We need to start highlighting Cade Cunningham. We need to start getting ready for the 2028 Olympics when Cade Cunningham should be one of the starting guards in this next upcoming generation. He's a former number 1 overall pick, but we don't he's a former number 1 overall pick, but we don't talk about him enough. We don't highlight him enough, but the brother is here. And once again, I saw a post when people were talking about Cade Cunningham deserves to be in most improved player conversations. No, Cade Cunningham deserves to be in MVP conversations. Let's really talk about it. What he's doing with this Detroit roster and how they started the season and how they are 3.5 games in this recording. The season can progress, of course. There's 3.5 games over 500. They're the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. Let's talk about it. Give the brother respect. Give the brother credit that he deserves. But this stream was dedicated to Deanna Taurasi, and shout out to her. Joseph, wow, Caitlin really said playing against DT this year was part of her favorite moments. Great respect. That said, reality is coming. will always be quoted in the future. Simply fun. Yeah, I mean, Caitlin Clark did say that. That was kind of like Caitlin Clark playing against Diana Taurasi was kind of similar to Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan at the All-Star game. It's like when you get to play one of your idols, would you get to play a person that you grew up watching and also modernizing your game after and trying to do. It was her swans. It was Caitlin. It was bigger for Caitlin Clark than it was for probably Deanna Taurasi. But at the same time, I can understand why that was such a big moment for Caitlin Clark and why it meant so much to her. And rightfully so, because you're playing against one of your idols. You're playing against a basketball player that you got to see, you got to witness, you got to grow up watching, you got to grow up trying to view and trying to model your game after, and you finally make it to the league, you get to play them. It's like when people, and it's always good to hear those moments. It's always good to hear people talk about and give respect to the legends and the pioneers. Even though a lot of times when we talk about the pioneers and the Hall of Famers and the legends, a lot of times, sometimes they don't really give the same credit to the up-and-coming players. Some of them are constantly always talking about them, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, if there's going to be more player media movement, and unfortunately, those guys get the best jobs and the NBA analyst jobs and things of that nature, and guys like simply journalists who actually know the game. Not saying they don't know the game, but you understand why those guys go right to the booth and get NBA analyst jobs. But just because you played in the NBA or you played in the WNBA doesn't always mean that like you always know what you're talking about. You have a different perspective than others because you actually been in those trenches and in the moments. It's just like with me. I played a game of college basketball. Yes, I know a lot, and I have a different perspective because I actually been in the trenches. I've been in certain environments. I've been in systems. I ran plays. I hit game-winning shots. I'm the second all-time leader scorer at my school. History, like all those things matter, but doesn't mean I automatically know the game more so than somebody that didn't necessarily play at the highest level, but it does give me an advantage. And I'm saying, unfortunately, those guys always get the top advantage because they played at the highest level. Even though when you hear them, you listen to them, it's like, you know what I'm saying? We can leave it at that. But yeah, definitely respect to Deanna Taurasi. Definitely respect to the Phoenix Mercury. And she probably didn't want to come back this year because, and she had this could have been a roster for her to come back to. And it could have really had another playoff contending roster, maybe even a championship contending roster. But sometimes when you reach a certain level and you reach a certain age, you just kind of like you've done everything that you needed to do, and your time is up. And Deanna Taurasi, time was up. She felt probably that she didn't have anything else to prove. So shout out to her. We lost a legend. Shout out to your boy Monte Smith. Make sure you go like, comment, and subscribe. Also, follow me on AKISS NBA on all the social media platforms, especially NBA Threads, the Threads account. I always leave you guys with this: faith without works is dead. Also, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean out of your own understanding. In all ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Jesus is king. All my truth tellers, like my boy Joseph in the chat, Wizard Gang, I see you. And I'm gone, man. Peace.